After this video for the exterior flooring video went up on the cube, I got enough comments saying, yes, please show us how you made the cube, that's what we are doing today. We are making a cube that you can cover with any number of things to use as a reference piece or just a fun decorative piece. So stay tuned and see how fun and easy this is to make. Alright, so I thought first we would go over what we need to have to build this cube. We're going to hold it together with toothpicks, and I'll talk about that when I get to that step. You'll need some round toothpicks and something to safely cut the toothpicks with. I like to use these pet claw trimmers. They work really well for round things. Some glue. You'll need some pieces of foam core. Now I cut 4 pieces that are 4.5 inches square. That's the size my cube is going to be built from. They're not perfectly cut. I know that I can fudge on these. They don't have to be exact. Then I cut 2 pieces that are 5 inches square. These are cut oversized so that I can trim them when I put my cube together. Put that off to the side. And then I have this piece of black paper. Now my foam core is black. Feel free to use whatever. If you've got white foam core, use that. The reason I have black foam core is simple. The day I bought foam core at Dollar Tree about 6 months ago, this is what they had, was black. They had no white. So I just stocked up that day on black foam core, and I'm still working through those pieces. I have this piece of paper. It's about the same weight as a piece of printer paper. If you're using white, printer paper will be fine. You just need a lightweight paper that matches your foam core, so it'll make a nice finished look on the corners. That's going to cover up our corners so that we don't have to be quite as neat. So we're going to start by I've got this batch of toothpicks here that are already opened. So I am going to cut a couple of them off. In fact, I'll cut all of these off. Cut these in half. You could always trim them down more when you get your box, your square put together. So we're doing this because I got a couple of requests from you guys that yes, you want to see how to make these, because we're going to be filling up the sides of a couple of them. So I like to start by pushing in on one edge of each one of these. And if I'm fairly consistent with where I put my pieces, you don't have to be perfect. Again, this doesn't have to be perfect. You're simply trying to get this set up so that when you build your box, it will be quicker and easier. Try to go close enough that you're going to hit the piece of foam core that you're attaching to, but not so close to the edge that it breaks through and tears here. And we're going to need more than just the ones I cut now. We're going to need several more when we get to the ends. Alright, now pick the end opposite where you did those. I had my glue open. And this is where, if you've got somebody to craft with, this would be great, because this would be so much easier with an extra set of hands. So if you can work buddy system and make 2 of these. Oops. One of my toothpicks fell out, but that's okay. Try and line up your corners. Line up your edges. And you don't have to go all the way in right now. Now, put you back in. It's just easier to make this initial hole before you get it on the cube. I've made several of these over the years, and I used to always use straight pins, short sewing pins, for putting these together, and I couldn't get any for a while. During the COVID pandemic, it was kind of hard to get some of the sewing supplies because everybody decided to learn to sew. And I didn't want to use my good sewing pins because I do sew. Besides that, you need the flat-headed ones. And I decided to try using toothpicks one day, and I like it better because I can actually glue them in. The glue actually holds them in, and it makes it really nice so that you don't, it actually holds this together a lot better than than the results I was getting from just using the sewing pins. And then I like to take a craft stick or something else that's flat. Be careful because sometimes that will poke through, and I've stabbed myself in the finger more than once doing this. But this just makes for a nice, sturdy connection. Now, I'm going to take this, and I do need, where's my, oh, it's right next to me, that's why I can't find it. I'm going to put this here. I am going to do I'm going to cut this off. I'm going to cut it off after it gets done anyway, so I don't need to worry about that, I guess, yet. So put glue on. Now, if you wanted to be exact, you could have cut this to 4 3/4 inches instead of the 5. And then you wouldn't have to trim it. But sometimes when I do that, I've come up short. Now, because I know that these are here, I'm putting the ones on. Probably lost one of those. Let's get out a couple more toothpicks. I should have gotten my toothpicks out. Come on. Let me turn the camera off and get my toothpicks out. Hold on. All right, and I know there's a dispenser thing on the lid, but it never works. I can never get it to work. Now, as long as you have a nice square corner here, you force these sides into that corner, you are going to have a box with square corners. If you were sloppy on this corner when you cut your piece of foam core, you're going to have trouble. Now, I'm going to use this as a guide, oops, to cut this down. And it would help if I actually looked at what I was doing. And you can trim it off more later. I think I cut this bigger than I thought I was going to. I think I cut this at 6 inches square, not at 5. Which is my own error, not. It doesn't have to be perfectly neat. And this corner, we don't have to worry about how accurate this one is. I don't worry about that. Because remember, we're not going to see these edges. And you'll feel if you're hitting the foam core. There'll be a little resistance. And if the toothpick is going down way too easily, then you'll know that you missed the toothpick. As long as your toothpick doesn't come through this surface, everything is good. Now, I'm going to go ahead and glue that on. And I'm not, yeah, I'll trim it off. I want to get this on and glued, and then the glue will need to dry before we can go on to our next step. But it's amazing, the combination of toothpicks and glue makes this foam core cube really very strong. And it doesn't take a whole bunch of glue. Alright, so now it's basically just a repeat of what I did on the other big side. I'm going to work this in the corner. I don't like that corner, I like that corner. And this is a good time to verify that, yep, everything is square. Everything is exactly the way you want it. So I'm going to do the exact same thing I did on the other end. I'm going to put 2 toothpicks on each edge. I'm going to trim this off. And then I'm going to let this dry. When this glue is dry, I'll come back and we'll fix the corners. Alright, my glue has fairly well dried, and I trimmed most of the edges. There's still a few that might be sticking out a bit, but I'm okay with that because they're going to be hidden. Then I took that piece of black paper and I cut myself 12 pieces that are strips 1 inch wide by 4 3/4 inches long. We're going to need one of those for each edge. And I have some more of that tacky glue. And I don't want to put too much on because I don't want the paper to bubble. Now if you want to, you could go through and score the paper in the middle lengthwise, but I don't find it to be necessary. Now make sure you're only using 1 sheet. I did that on the other one. I tried to put 2 down a couple of times. And do your best to get it centered. But again, it's going to be covered. And turn this around. And put glue over here. And I'm going to repeat that process. I won't make you watch me do all of them, but I'm going to go all the way around all the edges of the box. And then I've got a craft stick here to help me. Now if you have edges that stick out past the ends, go ahead and trim those before you cover the ends. But that's all there is to it. Then I'll just repeat that. I'll do one more on camera. But you can see how this is a really simple process. Just don't put too much glue on at once, and only, just do one edge and don't put too much glue on because you don't want that paper to get all bubbly, because that could show through depending on what you are sampling out on this particular cube. You might have things that are thinner. Go ahead and work that down if you want to first thing. Roll it around. And glue. And that is all there is to it. And these are all glued on and the glue is dry, I'll come back and we'll look at the cube. Alright, this has dried overnight and it's now ready to cover with whatever I decide to cover it with. I've had a few more ideas of ways to use these, so be sure and check the blog post. I'll try and talk about those over there. There'll also be the measurements that I used for the different parts of this, so be sure and check over there for those and other information. I want to thank you very much for watching today. If you enjoyed the video, be sure and leave a like. If you have some other ideas for things you'd like to see made on the channel, be sure and tell me in the comments. If you like my content and you haven't subscribed, I encourage you hit that subscription button and the notification bell so you know when I put up a new video. Thank you very much for watching today, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.